I was relieved to leave the principal's office, yet I did not feel any better. I tried to regain my senses, but everything was still confused in my head. Did not know if everything was finally over, or if it was just the beginning. I still cannot realize what had happened, and I had to continually fight to try to control my power. I felt it flowing through my body and tried to control it. I had not got used to that feeling yet. Everything had happened so fast. My departure from the next day as part of the exam, these revelations about the sealed powers of the Academy Espers. Oh, thank you, Steam. I felt stupid not having realized that. Hey man, finished. So I'll be able to start that next week. I knew the principal was pretty straightforward when he had something to say or two, but this was almost too much. And that woman, I had totally forgotten her existence, and I did not even remember having seen her in the academy in the previous 10 years. I knew nothing about her. Who could she be? Kind of freelance Esper who worked in several academies because of her particular powers? I did not even think about asking if the abilities she possessed were commonplace. But I sincerely hope not. It was somewhat frightening to see how she could, on a whim, lift the seal placed on my powers. It was almost too simple, too battle. All this led me to think back to that day when my powers were sealed. I did not have many memories of that moment, but maybe that's because it felt too, easy. A shiver ran up my spine and stunned me for a brief moment. The idea that we could only be simple instruments that were manipulated at will terrified me. I knew this was not the case, but I could not help but think about that. Or about it. But I understood the reasons, or at least some of those reasons, that punished them to do that. Nothing was done to hurt the students, quite the contrary, but I believe that my vision of Espers in our world changed at that moment because of all that I had just learned. I may have been a little naive, not having considered the Espers in a different light than the one that had always suited me, but I did not have any reason to think that they were hiding things from us. At least not that. A few hours before my interview, I still saw the Espers with childlike eyes, amazed by the abilities that would allow me to make people happy. And then I began to understand how Espers worked. I realized that our world, and rightly so, also had its secrets and darker sides. But even it just seemed justified learning about these practices, especially without any explanations and with a bare minimum in terms of justifications, was really disturbing. And the most disturbing and rather intriguing was probably the behavior of the principal and Miss Hirobayashi when addressing the sensitive topics. It was obvious that learning all this would shock me, and that I would have many questions that would come to mind. I'm sure it could just be seen just by looking at me, and yet neither of them let any emotion show on their face or in their voice. Neither of them were disturbed by the confusion and curiosity that showed in my face. They were like statues. Oh god, they're like statues. Keep staring at them, otherwise if you look away, they'll teleport near you. And they will kill you. Everything was set up to not give me any time to think about it during the interview, to avoid having to answer questions that might have arisen once I put my thought in order. Complex and long explanations on the why, in order to confuse my mind and focus my attention away from real questions, but nothing about how. Perfectly rehearsed duet they had practiced over the years. I felt it when I managed to ask them why they did not seal the powers of those who did not want to become Espers. The subject seemed to surprise them, and the answer I got was very evasive. The idea that Espers could also be this crossed my mind, which caused chills to go up my spine, being able to totally control your feelings to the point of not feeling anything anymore. I did not want to become like that. But I knew I was worried about nothing. The principal was known to be a pretty cold man, certainly, but not devoid of attention or humor. He had even proved it to me during my interview. It was also a bit paradoxical for an Esper, therefore I interpreted the situation probably in order to clear my mind, as a play designed to encourage me to find the answers to my questions myself. I finally began to understand why the principal was discreet throughout the years and why we met very rarely. All this was for that moment, the moment when we would be confronted with our future, the one where we would be... we were going to learn everything. Being able to accept all of this was part of our exam. I was comforted by the idea that everything was just a play. I imagined the two of them being quite different on regular days. Wow. My brain just threw in the word basis there. But knowing this aspect of their personality might have been a problem. If I had known them better, would I be asking myself all these questions? And if I had gotten answers that did not satisfy me, would that not have had a bad influence on my exam? I don't know. Maybe. Oh, this was just speculation. I was looking for explanations to a situation that I hardly understood, that I only learned a few minutes ago. Unless I was just trying to reassure myself. Samurai cat, centaur. because why not? This situation was really stressful for me. What I enjoyed during all these years at the academy is that none of my interrogations, though often superfluous, or engendered by misplaced curiosity, had remained unanswered. But while many really important issues in some form of concern had made my mind, I would have to figure things out by myself now. I could not talk about this to my classmates since I had been forbidden in starting tomorrow because of my exam. Any contact with other Espers would be prohibited to me. I had been warned that the exam would be difficult in every way, but I did not expect to be psychologically tested so rapidly. I set out a piece of furniture with a strange design and lost many minutes trying to find answers that were unobtainable for the moment, when suddenly the office door opened. You should not be here anymore, Mr. Wasaki. You can't even imagine the difficulty of the job that awaits you. You should already be preparing yourself. It's your exam that you pass tomorrow. It's not an outing to an amusement park. And your, powers, is everything okay at the moment? I was pleasantly surprised to see her worrying about my condition so soon after the end of the interview. She did not give me the feeling of being that kind of person. I think so. I have not felt anything in particular since earlier. I feel my power flowing through my body, but everything is fine outside of that. Mr. Obayashi stared at me for several seconds. I did not know where to look. I was, embarrassed. I see. Well, if you'll excuse me. Oh, and don't dawdle. Dawdle, dawdle, dawdle. I decided to return to my room before receiving another scolding, but especially to rest. I began to feel the backlash of what I had just gone through. My legs were shaking and the corridor seemed to give way under my feet. New anime, Samurai Centaur Cat, Samurai Unicorn Cat, Samurai Dragon Cat, Samurai Siren Cat must defeat the red dot. And with their powers combined, they will be Super Samurai Cat? Super Cat? I don't know. Ah, goddamn coughing. Haruka was still sitting where we had met a few hours earlier. She jumped towards me as soon as she saw me, visibly relieved to see her wedding come to an end. So, Rio, how'd it go? Stayed in the principal's office for quite some time. But I could wait for you a bit, you know, to know what happened. I didn't have much else to do anyway. But, yeah, it went rather well. I had not really thought about what I was going to tell my friends about the interview. I could tell them about my departure, but that was about it. This was not much for an interview that lasted 2 hours. Something wrong? You look troubled. That was true in a way. I was lost in thought, but it was a bit more complicated than that, and I could not really talk to her about what I had just learned. It's, I didn't really go into detail. They went straight to the point to tell me the content of my exam. I still have a hard time wrapping my head around everything they told me. But I'll get the opportunity to prove myself in the field. I'll be able to become the Esper I was wanted to be. Awesome! These years of work have finally paid off. I'm happy all these efforts were made while working together. We were not in vain. Especially for you. So you're going to have to leave the academy for your exam soon, right? We should hold a party to celebrate. I was assigned to a mission they consider simple. It is all town a few hours from here. Everything has been prepared for me so that I can live there for a while. But for the party, it might be, maybe a little complicated. I leave tomorrow morning. Tomorrow? Effect. An intense sharp pain tore through me from top to bottom. It was like being stabbed, but without being able to find the precise location of the wound. I did not exactly understand what was going on, although I had the vague idea that it had to be related to my powers. Ria, are you okay? You looked like you were staring at nothing for a while, and you were making a weird face. I think so? It's nothing. Probably a backlash from what I just learned. And then we were playing Doki Doki Literature Club. Yeah, Lamb, that's what I thought when I first saw that effect. I'm like, DDLC. Totally getting that vibe from it. Still can't quite grasp what's happening to me. I'm, sorry, I gotta go. I have to get ready and I don't like to rest. Today has been difficult and tomorrow will be even worse. It's obviously an excuse to get rid of her. Wanted to lie down, but I felt because of my powers was tiring me more and more. So you let... Rio, wait. Haruka grabbed my sleeve as I was leaving. He's leaving. On my heart. Regret it. All my life. Doesn't feel nothing. All this. Bother him. Bye. Leave. I heard a voice in my head, but it was not just any voice. No, it was Haruka's voice. But I did not understand what she was telling me. Did you say something? What? No, I didn't say anything. Did you hear something? Yeah, it's a bit strange. I'm sure I heard you talking to me, but I couldn't understand what you were saying to me. No, I didn't say anything. You must be dreaming. Sorry, it's nothing. I have to go. We'll see each other after exam, I hope. See you. Haruka went off without me having time to ask more. I was more and more disturbed by what was happening to me. First this pain, then these voices. That voice. It was one and the same voice. I was sure I heard it. I was not imagining it. It was, however, very vague. I did not understand what the voice was telling me, but the strangest thing was that I had the feeling that announcing my departure was at the origin of it all. She wants the tea. KB. You missed it, KB. They told us that dorms A and B were for boys, and that C and D were for girls. So, yeah. Yeah. That's a little bit what I just said, Lamb. But, yeah, stream delays. Despite her pretending having said nothing, I was sure I heard something. I felt disconnected from reality for a short time, but that voice was real. It could only be my powers. The headmaster had warned me malfunctions were to be expected after what I had undergone. It was going to take me some time to control them. I could not get that idea out of my head. It really seemed to me that she was destabilized when I mentioned my departure. It's true we both got along really well. Let's see. Yeah, I do understand. Shock. It was not me the first to be hit. I felt Haruka's pain when she learned of my departure. What I felt was a representation of the strength of her emotions at that moment, probably increased tenfold by my powers that I did not control yet. And that voice, it was simply fragments of her thoughts that I couldn't translate. That's what she felt at that moment that upset her. My powers reacted to it. The call for help, probably unconscious from her mind. Although I did not really understand what this voice told me, I knew that the announcement of my departure was the cause of it all. I was convinced that it was her pain that I felt at that moment. It took me a few minutes to understand all that and sort through my thoughts. It was a bit different from what I had learned in class, but not so far off, and I really did not expect to see my powers react so quickly. I could never have imagined that this announcement would have disturbed her so much. I made a promise to return to greet her after my examination, but in the end we lost sight of each other. When I returned to the academy after my exam, Haruka was absent. She had obtained permission to return to her family for a few days, and in the weeks that followed I was very busy with my new tasks. Once again, I really did not expect this kind of reaction from my powers, especially not within the academy. I began to dread the upcoming discussion with Brett. I hoped that my powers would have behaved normally. The reaction could be much stronger with him because of the relationship we had. So, real. Everything went well? You look a little pale. Something wrong? Don't tell me you failed. I forgot what voice I gave him. Wasn't even that long ago. It was only like a couple hours. Tops. Oh yes, it's nothing. Just a bit stress related to the exam. Do not worry about that. I'm fine. I'll leave the academy tomorrow to pass it. In a small town a few hundred kilometers from here. If something is wrong? Wait. What? I didn't even catch that. If something is wrong. Did I even read over this? Did things get missed during fixing? I, I have so many questions for myself right now. I suffered a few hardships to be ready for my departure. Tomorrow at dawn, but I'll be better in a few minutes, I think. So you passed. That's great. Congratulations, Real. But, although I suspected that exam wouldn't happen here, it's pretty sudden to hear that you're leaving tomorrow. Brett's going to have a hard time accepting it. In any case, good luck, dude, and do not forget this. If you're looking for Brett, I think he's in his room. You should go tell him the news. Try to break it to him nicely. It's going to be a real shock for him. Yeah, KB, I get it. I get it. I really do. There are some games that have been translated so poorly, but I'm like actually being on the other side where I helped with this game to make sure the English translation made sense. And to see things that got missed is like really? I put like 40 hours into it. And I missed shit? Like god damn it. Well, see you, Rue. Until next time. This discussion with Wallace had just raised my anguish a bit. Break it nicely. No matter how I was going to present the situation to Brett, it was going to be hard on him. Thought the obvious thing to do was perhaps to just be honest. It was also easier said than done. Slowly approached the door to his room. I wanted these few steps to last as long as possible. Did not want to face him. I was scared. My hand did not seem to want to knock on his door. It was the same thing that I felt before entering the principal's office, but stronger, more emotional. I had to make it clear to myself this was going to be as hard for me as it was going to be for him. Knock, knock, knock. Right, it's me, Rio. The results of my interview, can I come in? Dot, dot, dot. Brett did not answer. I was almost relieved. There were a lot of good reasons why Brett have been away, but I knew very well he did not want me to come to him. He would come to me. He had anticipated the worst, and by taking the first step, he began to accept what was coming. I knew I was not going to get away with this discussion, or from this discussion, rather. But this delay allowed me to get my head on straight and think about how I was going to break the news to Brett. I went to my room to see if Brett had left me a message on my computer, and I had to start preparing my things for the departure. Oh, in that case, KB, you could always call me if you want no one to answer, because I don't normally answer my phone. Not unless I'm expecting it. There was no message on the computer either. So that maybe he was not ready for this discussion either. Real, it's me. Brad, can I come in? I was completely wrong. The hour we both feared had arrived. Of course, come on. Come in. It's open. Come on. Come on, Brett. It's open. I don't know. English. It's hard, okay? Brett looked like he did on bad days. His face was sullen and his expression serious. He had already contemplated this discussion for a while already. I invited him to sit, but he refused. He was like me. He was like me. Oh, come on in, Brett. Got any jam? Go with yourself. Maybe some jelly. That I graduated and you didn't. And oh wait. He was like me, paralyzed by the situation. It was he, however, who spoke first after several seconds of silence during which we did not dare to look into each other's eyes. Stop loving her. Sorry for not coming to see you sooner, Rio. I had to finish something very important before coming, and even if I know what you're going to tell me, I don't really want to hear it. Even though I've seen others leave, it always makes me feel uncomfortable. I know it's a little selfish, but the idea of a friend's departure always makes me gloomy, and I tend to isolate myself in those cases. Oh, well, I'm here all the same, so did everything work out? So you'll have to leave for your exam, is that it? The opposite would really surprise me. He seemed to be reflecting on the whole situation, but he was trying to reassure himself. We had mentioned this possibility many times in the months preceding my exam. We both knew there was a good chance I would leave. But we had never really spoken of my departure in about the days we had before seeing it come true, and that was the heart of the problem. Brett had already more or less accepted my departure, but not that way. I was sure he had also considered the possibility of a quick departure, but not this quick, and that's why his air was serious. He dreaded the date of my departure. It didn't go too bad, yeah. I learned that my exam would take place in Naraha. I'm going to leave the academy and become an Esper. That's fantastic. I never doubted you for a second. And Naraha is not very far. Far. It's not very far. See? It's a few hours drives from here if I'm not mistaken. You're not going so far in the end. With a little luck, we could even see each other during your exam if I'm allowed. That's great. I felt uncomfortable. Saw in his eyes a glimmer of hope that we would not be separated, but he must have known deep down that it was only a dream. Even if the separation was to be temporary, by the time he too left the academy, it was unthinkable that it would not happen. He quickly realized that he had let himself get carried away and the discussion resumed its original tone, and thus a moment we were both dreading and trying to delay arrived. When do you leave? In a week? Or two, maybe? I suppose you need some time to prepare yourself and think about the best way to act. It was impossible for me to remember the few things I had placed in the corner of my mind to help him better accept the situation. Words came out of my mouth without me being able to do anything about it. I wanted to relieve myself of this burden. I could not keep it to myself anymore. Future days have been a bit messed up to tell the truth. I leave tomorrow at dawn. 2. Thorough, I didn't expect it to be so soon, but after all, it's normal. You're a good Esper. They're probably in a hurry to see how you handle everything. So, this may be the last time we meet for a long time, right? I was able to read and Brett. Like an open book. I did not need my powers for that. I knew that this announcement would hurt, but this much? I may have tried to hide it, but I could see that this news upset him. Strangely, my powers remained under control. This was a relief for me from this point of view. I was like a big brother to him, although he dived into his work to forget about the pain of being away from his family. I knew that my presence in our friendship helped him tremendously. From his early days at the academy, he spent most of his free time with me, especially in the evening, where he regularly joined me in my room to tell me about his new discoveries on Espers, but also and especially about his family. He had bright eyes when he talked about them, and I already felt at that moment that it was a way for him to evacuate everything that weighed on his heart. Kind of therapy. It was already evident at that time that he was going to have trouble moving forward with his weight. He too understood that, and that's partly why he got close to me. He needed someone to support him. Turning to his next door neighbor must have seemed like a default choice, but that was clearly not something Brett could do. And then there was the door of the student on the other side. No, the choice to come to me, he did because he had to do it. But not only that, he did because he felt it was the right choice. He must have already felt that we were going to... Hello, random burp. He must have already felt that we were made to get along. It's sort of second nature for Espers to be able to feel this kind of thing, and he was already very talented even before arriving at the academy. It is not surprising from an Esper standpoint to be able to feel the future power of friendship. Finally, his pain faded with the weeks and months that passed, but his habit of coming to see me persisted. That's how we became friends, if not more. More than friends? Oh god! Rio and Brett became more than friends, guys. They became best friends. And with time and a growing number of adventures, we ended up considering ourselves as a family, like two brothers. Oh god, they became brothers? It's even worse. I saw myself as a big brother, and he also considered me as such. So that's why he didn't hook up with Haruka. Breast friends. Wow. Wow, okay, be. Brett was 2 years younger than me, and this must have played a role in the way this relationship was built, but it was not the only argument. The weight he was dragging around, and from which he could not separate himself, had made him more fragile, especially psychologically. He therefore relied more often on me than the other way around. Friends? Really, Lamb? You're pushing that hard. You're really trying on that one. And although he had been doing well for many years, he had never completely come to terms with being separated from his family, and every new separation, whatever it was, had been a trial for him. With the years spent here and the number of Espers he saw leaving, he hardened himself. He became stronger and learned to accept these situations, and above all, to get through them better. But because we had this special relationship, because we were more than friends, it was written that my departure would be his ultimate ordeal, the one that would definitely make him capable of becoming an Esper. One was sourdough, the other was ciabatta, but they made it work. God damn it, KB. It was for that one reason that he was still at the academy. If he had been mentally stronger, he would have probably had this place all brain. He would have probably had this had his place. I kept reading that as this. I don't know why. It was throwing me off. I had his place in all books as the youngest Esper graduate for the last 20 years. But he had yet to learn something, and that for several years already the most important thing for an Esper, the thing without which it is impossible to live fully as an Esper, mastering one's emotions. This barrier, which seemed impossible for him, was the only thing that separated him from his exam for several months already. I did not expect, nor did any of us, that this change to take place in only a few days. He was going to need some time, but his great battle was beginning now, and this time he was going to have to win it without me. Well, I suppose nothing can be done. And it's not as if this is farewell, it's just a goodbye, isn't it? I too, one day, will leave, and then, the only thing that will concern me is seeing my friends happy, not sad. So, Ro, I got a little carried away by my emotions. All this, it's a bit sudden for me. Your departure will leave a big void. That doesn't help with earlier comments. But you can be certain that I'll be alright. I promise you I'll succeed here and join you to form an Esper duo that will still be talked about in 3 centuries. I knew Brett well enough to know that what he said was not unimportant, but that they were not words he just threw out there. Coming from another person, it would have been easy to think that these words were only meant to reassure me, but this was Brett we were talking about. And ow, I just hit my hand on my desk somehow. How the fuck did I do that? Damn it. He was already proving to me that he had understood what was waiting him and that he was ready to fight. He had already gone to war against himself and wanted to show me that everything was going to be alright. I had no doubts about his ability to succeed, but he, like me, knew it was not going to be easy. Want to make terrible joke about war with himself because blonde hair, blue eyes, but we'll pass upon that. But we'll still stay in touch while you're gone, right? You have my phone number and my email. You're right to be in and keep in touch, right? 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 He took my departure with a lot of detachment and went away for him with a lot of maturity. With much more than I could have imagined, but he was forgetting something. Or was it something he did not know? As far as that such a situation could occur, he knew the rules on the tips of his fingers. How could he be unaware of what the principal had told me? That Espers who were passing their exams had no right to contact other Espers. How about that, Brett? I was forbidden from contacting other Espers during my exam. I was not aware of this, but it was made clear to me that this was a rule to respect at all costs. I was to say, what the hell are you talking about, KB? Hell, you'll soon find out how they actually get bypass this rule. They bypass the rule. Because of course they do. Because, if not, Rio would leave a big void in Brett. So, I mean... OSE. To tell you the truth, I considered this a possibility. During my research, I learned that this had already been the case in previous exams. Pretty rare, but it has already happened. No, Lamb, no. Perhaps the best Espers are put in the most difficult conditions to give them the opportunity to fully express their powers. What did you just say? My memory did not fail me, it was still fresh. I had heard something about this a few hours earlier. Something was wrong. The feeling I had when talking with Ruga happened again. Well, that's what I thought. After a few moments, I realized that it was something different. I could see a link between these 2 situations, but they were different. Yeah, Flash! I forgot about the Flash. During your exam, you must not contact any other Esper. This is a rule common to all exams. Images of the interview I had just taken flashed before my eyes. What the principal told me was not in line with what Brett thought. And that's what was different. I was sure it was my powers, but this time they had no reason to react. Only Brett and I were in the room, and the discussion I had with the principal did not concern him. That's what I was trying to remember, and my powers reacted to help me. It was as if my subconscious wanted to put me on the right path. Rio? Rio? Are you still there? Rio? Yeah, sorry. You were frozen, your eyes blank, as if you had left this world for a few minutes. Moments. Are you sure you're alright? Sorry, a bit stressed because of the exam, but everything's alright. I was not doing anything as well as I suggested, Brett. I had the feeling that I had been lied to, but why? It's obvious that whatever the principal could say, Brett's word was more valuable to me. I had to make sure he was certain. Are you sure about this, Brett? I'm certain I heard from the principal that this rule was common to all examinations. Absolutely certain. Furthermore, what I'm about to tell you will prove it. I told myself that I had to be one of these rare cases that should not come into contact with the Espers, and that presenting it to me this way was perhaps a way to take some extra pressure off me. But I was not really convinced by this conclusion. What I want to talk to you about is a rule not to contact other Espers during the exam. There is a more underhanded way to get around this. Do not talk about this at anyone, Ro. Could cause serious trouble to several people, especially to many Espers who are no longer here for many years. A Phoenix right here. I should actually play Phoenix right on stream at some point. There was a Brett I loved so much, the one who knew the rules on his fingertips in order to find a suitable situation to circumvent them. Though, as you know, the means of communication to the outside and between Espers are controlled by the Academy. Creation of a new phone number is not possible, no numbers are monitored, the same is true for email addresses. It will be the same once you are outside for your exam. Means of communication to your new home will be controlled, and everything that enters the Academy is anyway. So changing your number or calling from a public phone wouldn't change anything, you wouldn't be able to contact us. There is, however, a trick that we have been able to exploit. It was not me who figured this out, but to avoid problems, I'll keep the identity of the person who spoke to me about it secret. This person also learned it from another person who, herself, well, you understand. I know, way all this dates from far too long ago, you couldn't know this person, so learning the name is irrelevant. There is a secure server that, until further notice, has escaped the supervision of the Academy. I don't really know the details that led to the situation, but the server's address found its way on the Academy whitelist. In other words, the connection to the server is not monitored. Neat. Did you think that the old students hadn't left us anything? And if the server still escapes the eyes of the Academy, it is also possible. It is also because those who are now seasoned Espers never stopped doing everything in their power to make it so. A very simple messaging system has been put in place, making it possible to communicate anonymously and privately. It is used by many Espers before you during the exam to talk in secret with their friends. Calls were allowed in most cases, but because they were monitored, it became a problem in discussion whose tone was more confidential, and many Espers considered that helping one another couldn't be considered cheating. On that point, I could not fault him. I was still a little upset to learn that I was going to have to tackle my exam without outside help, given that we had worked in groups during all our years at the Academy. For this reason, that I confirm to you that it's common to be allowed communication with other Espers during an exam. Helping each other out is even part of our way of working. It's just a way to talk about everything without being without risking being caught. It's very useless in the Academy where everyone is in direct contact, but in the situations like this, it's very convenient. It is for this very reason that the server exists. It will therefore be possible for us to connect to it and keep in touch without any problems, normally. Use of this messaging system, however, must be done over very short spaced out periods so as not to attract attention, and of course, remain secret. Given the situation of the rules of your exam, you should only connect to it in case of extreme need. Do not take unnecessary risks. But after all, reporting in once in a while is important as well, isn't it? So real, what do you think? Well, Brett, what I think is I probably should have grabbed some coffee during my last break. Because I am out of coffee. And that makes me a sad panda. I figured that having a lifeline couldn't help and nothing forced me to connect, but if need be, I had a solution. Furthermore, it was reassuring to know that if needed, I had someone I could count on just keystroke away. Leaving so soon alone for this exam was a little scary, and it was even more so for the last few minutes with the contradictory information considering the rule about contacting other Espers, so I decided to follow Brett. That's great, Brett. Just give me the login credentials for the server. I'll see what I can do once I get there. Very real. Here are the credentials. You just need to sign in to read any new messages or leave one. Brett handed me a small piece of paper that he had prepared and on which he had written instructions to connect to the server. You are currently the only Esper of the Academy undergoing an exam, so there will only be messages from me, and I changed the password so that only the two of us have access to it. Well, you should be aware that for security reasons, messages will be regularly erased, so don't take too much time to read them. The connection is made via several proxy servers, so it is unlikely that the identity of the users will be revealed, even if the server were discovered. But to prevent this from happening, remember well real short connections and, if possible, not too regular. That's the key to not attracting the attention of the Academy. God. Sorry, Brad, today was tiring, but I took note of everything you told me. Don't apologize, I didn't see it was this late already, it's my fault. Well, I think that's all I had to tell you. Time to say goodbye, I think. I'm very good at this, so I only have one thing to say. Thank you, Real. Thank you for everything. Thank you for everything! I was not good at goodbyes either. I looked right in the eyes and gave him a nod that summed up everything I wanted to say. He held his hand out towards me, still looking me in the eyes, and I answered by offering him a handshake in which I tried to pull out all the force of my affection towards him. But I understood the message. He smiled at me, then left the room. I was muted. That last bit of dialogue. Oops. It was already late, and I had little time left to collect my things. After an hour of cleaning and preparation, I was ready. I went to bed, my head full of hope, but also, above all the questions. And finally, the day of my departure arrived. He's leaving, guys, with his radioactive shirt. And here we are. We have left Set Academy. I'm gonna go ahead and save. Housekeeper! Housekeeping. Housekeeping. You don't have to worry about anything. The house has been prepared for your arrival according to the information provided by the Academy. Feel right at home. I will come by daily to do housework, so you do not have to worry about that either. I will also do your shopping when necessary. Fuckaroo, gonna do the housekeeper. I've already done the shopping for the next few days based on your taste at the Academy, but if you want something special, don't hesitate to let me know. Do not consider this as a lack of trust or an insult, it's just the way the Academy wants the exams to go. Espers must focus on their exam, and they're on their exam only. Not to do with the housekeeper. Sorry? I must admit that I had a thing for the housekeeper's costume. It was, of course, the first time I saw one with my own eyes, and I was more focused on it than on what she was telling me until she brought up Espers. I was surprised to hear her talk about it. How did you hear about the Academy and Espers? Don't worry, sir. I too went to the Academy. I'm an Esper like you. It only took me a moment to realize that all this was obvious and that I was panicking for nothing. You probably do not remember me. You were very young, but I passed my exam a few months after your arrival. Academy would not take the risk of involving a total stranger in this. I simply followed a different path in order to help Espers my own way. And then, between us, aren't these outfits superb? I didn't say anything given how in sync our opinions were. I think she came to that conclusion as well, since she had already noticed that I was eyeing her up and down for several minutes. By the way, my name is Maria. Maria Kusumoto. Just call me Maria. No need for formalities. Sorry, I'm getting off topic. The principal, Mr. Noyuni, has put a map of the area at your disposal. I put it on the table in your living room. According to him, it is important to know a little about the city in which one works in order to carry out relevant investigations. He also asked me to advise you to rest for the end of the day and start your work tomorrow. On that, sir, if you'll excuse me, I shall take my leave. I was finally into my new home. It was not so bad. Much more spacious and much better equipped than my room at the Academy. We began to search everywhere to see what the Academy had left me.
Decide.
TV. Time to loot the housekeeper. I could not help but be surprised when I discovered the 256 channels available on the television. I've been accustomed to much less at the Academy and my parents' house when I was able to return to my family. But that was not the last surprise. Under the television, there was a Game Station 6 with a stack of games. Border Towns 2, Hatsune Miku, and Ultimate Fantasy 14. Those were my favorite games. Ultimate Fantasy. Border Towns 2. Yes, those are actual games that are referenced by Stoy, the dev. It only took me a few seconds to understand how these games had ended up here. Despite all of our efforts, we were, in the end, not that discreet. Our little game had been discovered, and we had no idea. The Academy hid its true nature well. Behind the rules that seemed very strict, they would overlook some minor infractions, provided they were beneficial to young Espers. If the Academy had officially begun to become more flexible about its rules, many people would have seen this as an opportunity for abuse. Each Esper would probably have had his own request, his own needs, and would have rapidly become too difficult to control. I was surprised, pleasantly surprised, but surprised nonetheless to learn that the Academy worked that way. It was reassuring at the same time to know that, in the end, it was difficult to hide anything from them, and that when a small offense was done to improve the comfort of the Espers, it was sometimes tolerated. After completing the tour of the house, I sat down on the couch and grabbed the map that was placed prominently on the table. This is what Naraha looks like. Let's see. At first glance, the city did not seem very big and offered many points of interest that were relatively close to each other. This is good for me. I knew this would facilitate my investigation. My new home was just a few minutes walk away from the city center. I told myself that this should be one of the busiest places in town and that would be a good starting point. I had to see as many people as I could to try to make my powers react. I had to learn to feel people in need and locate them based on how my powers would manifest. I did not really know how they were arranged yet, but I imagined that they would react in a radius of at least several dozen meters to start. I knew that once mastered, my powers would allow me to locate targets at least hundreds of meters away, but I did not know the extent of my abilities at that time. I looked at the rest of the map attentively. A bit away from the city center was a municipal library. Reading was not at the top of my current list of priorities, but I thought it might be a good place to find information, if necessary. And then I was curious to know if some books mentioned Esper doings. Our existence remained and still remains a secret, but the result of our actions has always been visible and has always had an impact on the lives of others. About 10 minutes west of the city center was a cemetery. It's probably not the liveliest place or the most fun place, but I had, unfortunately for them, a good chance of meeting people who might have needed me. And finally, I noticed the presence of a temple, a little away from the city. It was a landmark like any other. I thought I could see many people there. But it was also the opportunity to do some drive-by tourism. I told myself that after all, even if I had to visit the city from top to bottom for my exam, I might as well make the most of it. I was quite curious about the temples. Very much enjoyed when our Japanese history lessons concerned the way they were built, destroyed, and sometimes rebuilt through the eras and great events of our history. Like the bombings. I just finished my plans, I therefore knew where to start my investigation. By focusing on these different places, I had the best chance of progressing. Walking aimlessly through the city streets would not have been a good option anyway. God. Yeah, it's been a long and emotional day. I decided not to linger and go to bed to regain my strength for my first day of work. First day of work. First day of work. First day of work. Also, it has been a long time since I've been, like, talking more or less non-stop for so many hours on end. And here's my room. In the academy, I'd gone all over my room. I already felt at home here. Everything was there. My clothes, my old and new ones, my notes, brand new laptop, and even the TV. Seeing the computer, I wanted to check something about the internet access. I was pretty sure the academy was watching me, that was all, but did I have more freedom? I had to look up something a bit unusual, something that would have been proven at the academy. A taboo topic, maybe. A couple things I had vaguely heard of came to mind. I told myself that this would give me the opportunity to see exactly what they were. Confidently, I typed some words on my keyboard. Doc, what is this abomination? I was not disappointed by what I saw. My first instinct was to close the browser and turn off the computer. I would have never thought that people could have such strange practices. I did not even know that this was an actual thing and that people could be interested in it. Then, after having regained my senses, I started laughing out loud. I could not help but think of those who were overseeing my online activity. Thought they were going to have a good laugh when they'll see what my first search had been. But they must have suspected that I had many questions on many subjects, even the strangest, and that it was normal to start looking for answers now I lived outside the academy. But I had my answer. My access did not seem to be limited. It was good to know. It gave me the possibility to connect to the server Brad told me about. Stunned by this lightest emotional outpost, I lay down in my new bed and fell asleep in minutes. I had a very good night's rest. It was almost too good. The last 2 nights at the academy, which had been particularly difficult, I needed rest. I looked at the time, convinced that I had woken up at dawn. Already 10? I think I slept 2, 3, 8, 11 hours? Must be said that in addition to the last 2 nights, the last 2 days had also been exhausting. Even though the Academy took care of everything, or almost everything, considering the mood, the last 2 days have been very emotional days in which I constantly struggled against my powers. Regretting not having more coffee. May or may not be having Skittles instead. And today was a big day. I was starting my exam for real. Fully conscious of the time I had already lost by slipping in, I got dressed rapidly to get started as quickly as possible. There we go. It was strange to not be in my uniform, but in a good way. These clothes were more casual, I was more comfortable. And then there was the obvious rule: Espers could not wear the uniform when they were outside the academy. People could have asked questions and could have drawn attention to our school. I had no choice. Even if I had wanted to wear my uniform, it would not have been allowed, and I would have faced serious consequences. However, we were allowed to keep the academy uniform, and we could even get a new one if needed because of a change in size or just wear and tear. In fact, it was not even a privilege, but an obligation. The Espers were sometimes required to return to the academy where they had been trained, and the wearing of uniforms was still compulsory, even for those Espers who had already graduated. I imagine that it must have been a rather special feeling, after many years, to come back to where you had spent all your youth, dressed the same way as you were every day, or almost. I suspected that the first time would awaken memories and habits that had to be difficult to control, that moment had to be very emotional. But before I got there, before reopening the chapter of my story at the academy, I had a blank page in front of me, the first page of a new book I had to write. The book of my new life as an Esper. What about these thoughts I set out forward city to familiarize myself with the place? Why did I go into this voice? I don't know. Go on down to Esperville. It's your free-range Espers. After a few hours wandering the city streets, more to visit than for my exam, by the way, I reached the city center of Naraha. It was a place visited daily by many people, the most lively place in the city. Oh, you guys will love one of the characters in this game. It was a relatively small area, since it was just 2 narrow streets and a connecting plaza, but it was very well organized. I don't remember exactly when the hell we met this other character I'm thinking of. Having just arrived, the colorful storefronts of many shops and services caught my eyes. I was, of course, very curious, but this place was made with the idea of catching one's attention in mind. The locals could find everything they needed here, or almost everything, from the supermarket to restaurants to the arcade and hairdresser. The northbound street led to the upper-class neighborhoods and served as a base for the market every other day for those who preferred local produce. On the other street, various administrative buildings stood on each side of the road for dozens of meters before giving way to a school and the municipal library. This plaza was therefore an obligatory passage to get from one point of the city to another. It was the nerve center of Naraha. Okay, Gabby. I paused a moment to contemplate the place. The slight morning breeze wafting over my face was soothing and relaxing. I took a moment to realize what I was going through. It was the first time since I entered the academy that I went out alone, just like that, free to go wherever I want. The outings at the academy were always monitored, and my friends were often with me. I had come to places like this before, but never alone. And when I was able to return to my family, I spent most of my time with them, never alone. It was almost intimidating. Felt like everyone was watching me, made me feel a bit uneasy. I was, however, just a passerby like any other. Well, any other. There were, unsurprisingly, a few people at the time. People seemed to go about their business without stopping. I wonder if it was market day. The street was in front of me. It only took me a few steps to go check. I was right. The street was noisy and filled with stalls that customers inspected thoroughly to find products that suited them. The stands were full of fresh and regional produce, which made my mouth water immediately. Hunger took hold of me in the rush to leave this morning. I had not thought about having breakfast. The produce selected by merchants whose passion for their work can be seen on their faces was varied and of quality. Customers seemed to buy them with almost blind trust. Yet, despite the quality and variety of the available food, I felt that many came here for other reasons as well. The inhabitants seemed to have their own habits. They seemed to enjoy meeting their friends to discuss often uninteresting topics for the sole purpose of spending time together. Small talk. And behind their stands, the merchants, as good tradesmen do, joined the discussions with enthusiasm and motivation, assuming they were not themselves the origin of said conversation. There was a good-natured and family-friendly atmosphere to which everyone seemed able to join in with a little goodwill and good humor. And this particular atmosphere seemed to have an amazing effect on those present. Loosened their tongues, I was a witness of a conversation between a young girl and a merchant. A cat, you say? Oh, sorry, haven't seen any around here for a while. Some of them used to come hang around here until recently, but I chased them away without hurting them, of course. Must have been attracted by the smell of fish. I remember hearing from some of the clients that some of them were hanging around the cemetery lately. Maybe you'll have better luck looking over there. When that girl passed in front of me, my powers resonated. I was not sure it came from her, but I was sure that what I had just felt was because of my powers. I was starting to get used to that feeling. It was a somewhat similar feeling to what I had felt in the academy with Haruka, though this time I did not hear anything. However, I had to be cautious. My powers were behaving strangely and chaotically since they had been released. I decided to try my luck with the merchant. He was the last person to whom the girl had spoken to, and I had no other lead. She had already disappeared into the crowd and had most likely already left the market. I thought that maybe he could have told me what they were talking about so I could get a better idea of the situation. I had to know if it was this girl who had made my powers react. But when it came to act, my inner demons caught up to me. I began to understand what these tasks based on our weaknesses were. I felt comfortable with the idea of having to speak to a stranger, which was the norm for me at that time. There's something totally new to me in a situation like this. In the middle of this large crowd, I was intimidated. I looked for a solution to get around what I saw as a problem. Now that I was confronting it, I did not feel ready to face that fear. I told myself that I could go in search of this girl, that she must have followed the merchant's directions and went to the cemetery. But I was just looking for excuses. I knew very well that it was an absurd idea that would only delay the problem. Should I find her, talking to her would not have been any simpler, especially since she seemed distressed. The condition would not have made things easier. That would have, most likely, caused the exact opposite effect. I felt even more annoyed at this thought. After several minutes trying to reassure myself, saying that in the end he was only a merchant, I began to feel ridiculous. It was quite normal to speak to him, and besides, everyone else was doing it. Everyone else was jumping off a bridge, may also do it too. All that was left was to take the leap, which I did at the end after a final hesitation. Hello, young man. Are you interested in my regional produce? Everything here is fresh. I've heard them myself this morning. Best quality guaranteed. Or you just want to eat something quickly? Young people these days don't take time to cook anymore. I'm 100 yen for 8 takoyakis. What do you think? Don't say anything. I can see it's what you want. I was paralyzed. I did not know what to say to this man who spoke to me as if we had known each other for years. Yes. No. Sorry. Here you go, young man. That'll be 500 yen. But I didn't ask for them. You have a hard bargain, kid. Okay, just because it's you, 450. Bargain, these are the best around here. Here. Before even realizing I had just bought my lunch and went from potential customer to customer served. Thank you, young man. Next. And I've been asking the same question, or even put a single word. I took my courage in my hands and tried to interrupt him. There's nobody left. Fresh produce, takoyaki, scalped Jones, best fresh produce dad. Excuse me. Is something else, young man? Could you, tell me about the young girl who you were talking to a moment ago? You know her? Well, I have a friend who... Don't say more. She got your eye, huh? No. I had finally succeeded. I was not any more relaxed, but I had finally engaged in conversation with this man on the subject which I had intended to speak to him about. I'm joking, my boy. Don't make that face. Her name is Ayano. She is well known to traders here. She often comes to shop, and she is an excellent partner to kill time while chatting. She's a really nice girl and usually in a good mood. Also, she's single. Don't make the face. You're young. Gotta enjoy life. The man, aware that the situation was making me quite tense, gave me a friendly pat on the shoulder. He had already said for a while that I was a little shy and went a little overboard trying to make me feel comfortable. Or, trying to make me comfortable. Sorry. Relaxed a little. So yes, I said that she was often in a very good mood and happy, but today it was different. She seemed panicked, almost lost. That's the first time I saw her in this state. I didn't understand everything, but she seemed to have lost her cat. Would have liked to help her a little more. I know how important that animal is to her. She talks about it almost every time she comes here, but I haven't seen it. To tell you the truth, I have never seen this cat. All I know, well, all I've heard from other customers is that they happen to see cats walk in the cemetery park from time to time. It's a bit vague as the information goes, but I really wanted to help her, so I told her. And with the Lord, her cat would just have gone to meet some friends there. The girl was always full of joy when she comes here. I was shocked to see her like this. If you want to know more, why don't you go ask her directly? I've got produce to sell, and anyway, I don't know much more. I'm just a merchant, not a father or boyfriend. He knows my conscience there and tapped my shoulder a second time, so in front of the matter. I'm joking. Relax, kid. Well, till next time. Thank you. It was really easy to have found a person like him as a merchant. He was used to keeping a conversation going. I, on the other hand, did not really know what to say to him. We complimented each other perfectly. His information was interesting. Maybe I was on something. Thought that this girl might have felt bad after the loss of her pet. It made my powers react. I decided to go looking for her to see if my powers would still manifest in her presence. There were so many people passing through the market that it was hard to be sure if it was coming from her. I kept to my first idea, the one proposing that the girl had followed the merchant's information. According to him, there was a park near the cemetery. I made my way there quickly so as not to lose her trace. I had located the place on the map the day before I knew where to go. And on that, I'm gonna take a little chill break.